We're kicking off our 100th season as a UTEP football program. Very excited about this season, the entire process of it. We just finished a great camp up at Ruidoso, came back and got the finishing touches done here and broke camp this past Saturday. We had a great Saturday with the fans. We had a fan appreciation day where players got to interact with the fans, and it was exciting for both parts. And the players had Saturday evening off, and then we started yesterday with our normal game week preparations for Oklahoma. Playing an outstanding team, outstanding program in Oklahoma. Loaded on both sides of the ball. In particular, offense, I feel they've got probably the best returning quarterback in the country. He's one of the leading Heisman candidates. This guy's a 71% completion percentage quarterback, threw for close to 4,000 yards, but his efficiency is what sets him apart. 40 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions, so he makes great decisions with the ball. And the thing that he can hurt you with as well, he can scramble, he can make plays with his legs, and he had 6 touchdowns rushing last year. I think they got one of the best tight ends in the country, Mark Andrews. This guy's a great route runner, but he's a complete tight end. Those are rare to find nowadays. He's kick and block. He's close to 500 yards receiving, close to a 16-yard average for a tight end. That's outstanding. He had 7 touchdowns. He was their 4th leading receiver last year. They lost a couple of top-end receivers. I feel they have the best offensive line in the country. They have all the returning starters. I've never heard of this before, but every single one of their starters were named at least honorable mention all Big 12. So they got 5 all-conference players coming back. But the top dog is the left tackle, Orlando Brown Jr. He's 6'8", 345 pounds. He'll probably be the #1 tackle picked in next year's draft. This guy's long, athletic, and if you remember his father, Zeus Brown, that played for the Browns and the Ravens, he was an outstanding player and competitor as well. So very experienced offensive line, which is usually a formula for success. They do have a grad transfer wide receiver that came from Kentucky named Badditt, 6', 180. This guy was Kentucky's leading receiver last year, had a 21.6-yard average, so I could see why they brought him on board. This is an explosive receiver, so they're going to have athletes at all positions on offense. They're very balanced, 236 yards rushing, 318 yards passing. They take care of the football extremely well. They're even in turnovers, only 8 interceptions, as I mentioned, only 9 fumbles on the year last year. Here's where they were good, 51% on third downs. That would usually lead any conference in third down percentage, and they're good in the red zone as far as accumulating touchdowns rather than field goals. So very explosive team led by an All-American quarterback and probably, again, as I mentioned, the best offensive line in the country. Defensively, they're going through a little transition as far as what they're presenting. They were a 3-down team last year. They've talked about making the transition into some 4-down looks. I would anticipate that we'll see both from their defense, and they have the personnel to transition into both defenses. So for them, it all starts with their safety, Stephen Parker. He was their 5th leading tackler last year. This guy's a playmaker. He makes interceptions. He had 2 interceptions last year, but he's a force in the run game, very physical, talented safety. Emmanuel Beal, the linebacker, is their 2nd leading tackler. He had 81 tackles last year. Also gets after the quarterback, 7 quarterback hits. He leads them in the middle. And then their corner, Jordan Thomas, who's an all-conference guy, had 17 pass breakups last year, including 2 interceptions, and he's also involved in the run game tackler. He's a physical corner with good size. And then the guy that makes splash plays for him is number 31. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. 6'1", 240 pounds. He's kind of that guy that can transition them from a 3-4 to a 4-down. He's that guy that 6'1", 240, very athletic. He had 12 tackles for losses, 9 sacks, 10 quarterback hits. He led their defense in every category last year, so he's a guy that up front we're going to have to slow down to get a chance to be efficient in the passing game. Defensively last year, they gave up 28.8 points a game. Again, 162 yards rushing, 269-yard passing. And then again, they were even in turnovers, so they gained 9 interceptions, 8 fumbles, but they did produce 25 sacks and several quarterback hits, and they're a very athletic defense. Just like their offense, they were good on third downs. Offense is only converted at a 43% rate, okay, and also they were extremely good at red zone touchdowns, only giving up field goals. Offense has only scored 48% of the times they got in the red zone. Special teams, they're extremely solid on special teams. They got great coverage units because of the athletes that they have on their team. They do lose an outstanding punt returner and kick returner, but I'm certain that they'll have that void filled. And then they got a strong leg, all-conference kicker type, who's made field goals over 50 yards and was 41 of 43 last year as far as, 11 of 16 field goals and 72 of 74 PAT. So strong kicking. Kicker, he's also their punter. He had a 41.1 average, but they only gave up 39.3 net, which tells you that's 2 yards of coverage. They got an outstanding coverage unit. Okay, they only allowed 9 returns for 67 yards last year for the year. Okay, punt return, they averaged 10.16, which is outstanding. That would lead most conferences, but they do lose their punt returner. Again, as I anticipate, a solid athlete back there when they release their 2 deep. Kickoff cover, the kicker's got a strong leg. He's a lot like our guy. He can put it out of the end zone. And when he doesn't put it out of the end zone, again, they got outstanding coverage units. Teams only average getting back to the 21-yard line, which is a good goal. And then kickoff return, they average 23.3. They lose their top 2 kick returners. They were both drafted last year. And again, I see those guys being replaced easily with the type of athletes that they have. Any questions on Oklahoma?
What do you think about Lincoln Riley as a coach? Did you know him from his East Carolina stint with Ruffin McNeil?
I don't know him. I know he's an outstanding coach. I know he's always had outstanding production as an offensive coordinator. I think it was pretty cool that he brought Ruffin McNeil back with him and paid back to a guy that gave him an opportunity. I think that's special. I think that's what coaching is all about. I don't know him personally, but I know he's an outstanding coach.
Sean, coming into a game like this, obviously huge underdogs, what are you going to evaluate with your team? What do you want to see with them on the field?
I want to see my team compete, okay, and I want to see guys collectively, one by one, to go out and try to win the one-on-one battles. And the more guys that we have win the one-on-one battles, the better chance we have to compete, better chance we got to keep the game close. And when you keep a game close against an opponent like that, you have an opportunity. If you don't keep the game close with errors, pre-snap penalties, we can't beat ourselves. Minors can't beat minors. We can't go out and have pre-snap penalties. We can't drop balls. We can't turn the ball over, okay? And we're going to have to steal possessions from these guys, whether it's us running the ball efficiently and dragging out series and try to gain 2 possessions with possession time, or gaining the ball on defense, 1 or 2 turnovers, 3 turnovers, and gaining possessions that way. But if you give Oklahoma extra possessions, they're going to make you pay because they have the talent to do that. But that's our main goal, is to steal possessions as far as a team. But I'm concerned about the competition of our team winning the one-on-one battles, seeing our guys compete for a full 60 minutes, okay? I'm realistic when it comes to this game, all right? I'm not a fool. We're 45-point underdogs, all right? But I also am realistic with what type of team we have, and I know these kids are going to go out and compete their tails off.
And then as far as the new guys, especially with running back, what percentage do you see of Doug, Don, and Fields being carried?
I think in this particular game, it's going to be pretty balanced when it comes to that. You're hoping, again, somebody sets themselves apart. And again, we're going to gain back Quadres Wadley at some point very early in the season. So that's good news for us because we were not anticipating that. The kid's worked his tail off to get back healthy, and we're anticipating getting him sometime around October. So I think you're going to see more tailback by committee. And Quadres, even when he comes back, he's going to have to go through a transition of getting in shape and being ready for football. So, but I like the group. I like the talent. You'll see all 3 of those guys out on the field. And you'll even see Ronald Awatt as well.
When you come into an environment like Oklahoma, how much of an opportunity is that to get your brand new guys in front of the biggest crowds so that later on in the season it feels different?
Well, I'm hoping that everybody in our program gets to play in this game and talk to the coaching staff about that. Not only, for the experience, but also it's going to be a hot and humid game. It's going to be 86 degrees and humid. We train in the heat, but not the humidity. So, especially on defense, we're going to have to rotate guys, keep them fresh so everybody can go out and play 100% at all times. But you talk about newcomers, we've got 44 guys in our 2 deep. Well, 26 of those guys are brand new to the program, have not stepped on the field as UTEP minor, whether they were redshirted, whether they sat out academically, whether they were junior college transfers or grad transfers. That's more than half the group. 35 of the 70 travel roster have never stepped on the field as a UTEP minor. So that's a big turnover, and that was by design. It takes time to build. It takes time to recruit guys and develop guys. And this is the first year that we're playing with a full 85 scholarship. I'm excited about that, and it gives us a little bit more depth.
Your depth and production along your defensive line looked much improved in camp. Going up against one of the best offensive lines, what are you looking for those particular guys? You're looking for a collective or some guy to step up? I know Denzel had a big fall. I mean, what are you looking for there particularly?
Production, I think we've really upgraded our athleticism and size there. I think if you look at the two deep, you're going to see some names missing. Our entire starting defensive line didn't even crack the two deep. I mean, that just shows you that these guys have some talent. They've been out recruited. These guys have been developed, and again, it takes time. Some of these guys had to sit out. Some of them had to sit out academically. Some of them had to be developed for a few years. But our defensive line, we're not rolling out there with 230, 40-pound guys. We're rolling out there with guys that are 275 pounds or better, and that gives you a better chance to compete, not only against a team like Oklahoma, but especially when you get into Conference USA play.
Coach, coming out of Camp Ridoso after the second scrimmage, you said the team was relatively healthy. Some of the players were a little bit dinged up, but you anticipated that all systems would be go come the season opener against Oklahoma. Is that still the case over these practices and leading up to Saturday?
Yeah, and hopefully we'll remain healthy this week. We'll pull off, as we get towards the end of the week. But mainly football injuries, a little dinged up ankle here, groin there, but nothing that'll keep anybody out. The only two players that I mentioned that will not be participating in this game, we're not even going to bring them on the trip, are Jason Van Hook, outside linebacker, and Quadres Wadley. But both of those guys, we're hoping to get Jason back by Rice or Arizona, and we're hoping to get Quadres back, again around the beginning of October. So the rest of the team is healthy and they'll be ready to go.
Sean, this may be a pretty basic question, but who are your starting defensive line going to look like coming into this game?
Well, Big Denzel will be a defensive end, okay, and he'll rotate at nose and some sub packages when we do that. You'll see a mixture of Chris Richardson and Trace Mascoro at the nose guard. You'll see a mixture of Luke Elsner and Christian Buckingham at the end spots, and they'll be backed up by Dietrich Simpson, Sonny Buckingham, Sky Logan, and we're really going to probably rotate about 9 or 10 guys in there on the defensive line. You'll also see Keith Sullivan in some sub packages. You'll also see Christian Johnson in some sub packages when teams come out there and go out in 3 and 4 wides or a third down type situation. So every single one of those guys will get to play. All the two deep linebackers will get to play in certain situations. You're going to see Jamar Smith out there. You're going to see Julian Jackson out there, Kalai Griffin. You're going to see all the newcomers out there. And in addition to the safeties that we brought in, Kahani Smith, Joseph Pinckney, Jesse Montgomery at corner. So you're going to see a lot of new faces on defense. Again, I think more athletic. Second year in the system, these kids got it down. That was evident to me during camp and really even during spring ball. They understand the system better. I think that's what will make the biggest jump as a team. Maybe not one game, but by the end of the year when we're standing there talking about it, I think defensively we're going to make a huge jump.
When you have an athletic defensive line like that, a bigger defensive line this year, does it change anything schematically? Are we going to see more blitzing, more zone coverage, something like that?
Well, Coach Mason's defense is predicated on blitzing, and we didn't hit home a lot last year. We didn't get a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and that stems from the defensive line position. It also stems from linebacker, and again, no fault of Coach Mason's. We didn't have the personnel to do that last year. We've recruited hard at both spots, and I think we've increased our athletic ability. And when you start getting pressure on the quarterback from those two positions, I think we'll have one of the better secondaries in Conference USA. I thought they played outstanding pass defense last year without gaining pressure. If we can get quarterbacks to have errant throws or get hits on quarterbacks, much like we saw during training camp, these guys can come down with the football because, there's some playmakers back there like Beverly and Nick Needham, Michael Lewis, Devin Cockrell, and if there's quarterbacks getting hit, I think we're going to come down with more turnovers and more sacks.
Sean, who's your backup quarterback and how solid are you in that decision right now?
Our backup quarterback right now is Zach Greenlee. Mark Torres had an injury. He will be healthy for this game. He will be back, but he did miss a good chunk of training camp. He was on schedule and doing extremely well. I'll say this about Zach Greenlee. He probably had a better camp this year than he did last year when he was named the starting quarterback. I feel good about all three of our quarterbacks. I've mentioned it to the press before. I think all three of them could go into a game and help us win a game. So it's our best quarterback situation since we've been here collectively as a group.
Talk about Ryan Metz's progression now that he's a junior starting his third year.
Ryan's just been a product of the program. He's matured. You've seen it. And, again, at my fault, the guy was out there too early. But it was out of necessity. We didn't have any other options. He was out there as a freshman. Shouldn't have been out there as a freshman, much like a lot of the players on our team, guys like Kaylon Beverly, Nick Needham. That's what happens when you take over a program that you're building. But these guys are now juniors, and they're leaders now. And Ryan Metz shows maturity. The things I see from him is maturity in the pocket. Ryan used to get a little jitter-feeded and scramble when he really didn't have to. He doesn't do that anymore. He makes good decisions with the football. He's a very accurate passer. But the biggest step that he's made is gaining the trust of his teammates with his leadership. I mean, you cannot help but like Ryan Metz. He's that genuine of a person. Well, our team sees that and they rally around him. They love the guy.
Coach, you talked about being realistic about this game, and you talk about being a 45-point underdog. The same people that deemed you guys are a 45-point underdog have also stated that UTEP football should win about 2 or 3 games this season. Being the first Monday we gather like this, can you comment on the expectation on what you want for minor football this season as far as victories and
Sure.
stuff like that?
Well, number one, I'm not going to give you a count of victories. I don't do that. And no disrespect to anybody here. I respect all you guys, but I really don't give a rat's ass what the media thinks about my team. All I care about is 105 guys that are in that room. And at the end of the year, if we're standing there in a bowl game, then we'll accomplish our goal. All right? At the end of the year, we're not, then they can go back and redo all their prognosis.
Sean,
Coach, of all the El Paso players returning this year, has there been one in particular that has improved immensely?
You know, this camp, I thought Warren Reddix really took a big jump. You know, he's been a playmaker for us in the past, but he really was consistent throughout camp, had an outstanding camp. He started for us at receiver, and Warren is a quiet leader. He does it through work ethic and those type things. So there's so many outstanding players on our team. You know, the Alvin Joneses, the Ryan Metzes, Derek Almendorf's another one. You know, he's a great story. He's a guy that was benched because he had weight issues. He was injured. He wasn't giving us the production that he needed, and he kind of made a life's choice that he was going to change his body, that he was going to change his mentality. Instead of going the other way and blaming anybody else, he blamed himself. And he had a great camp, so I'm looking forward to him starting. I'm proud of that kid from where he's taken his career. He took it by the horns and he did it himself.
Sean, the last question, going back to Ryan for just a second. He went to the Manning Academy this year. Those Mannings like to throw a lot of interceptions. Not all interceptions are created equal. I think you know where I'm going with this. Am I crazy to say that I want to see Ryan Metz throw more interceptions this season?
I don't want to see Ryan Metz throw more interceptions, but I think being around their mentality is good for him because it's more of not throwing the interceptions is what you do afterwards. They have a gunslinger mentality, and their mentality is just wipe it clean. All the great quarterbacks are like that. Brett Favre was like that. He'd throw 4 picks in a game, come back and beat you in the 4th quarter because he wiped it clean, and he was such a competitor. I think it was good for Ryan to be around that you don't have to play perfect all the time. Play within the system, and if you make a mistake, wipe it clean, and everybody's got your back.
You want him to take more chances this year?
I want him to take calculated risk. I want him to be accurate like he's always been. But, you know, he's developed his arm strength. His arm strength has gotten better. So there are going to be throws that he's going to have to put in there. And I think we got better playmakers on the receiving end of that. This would be the best group of receivers that I've been around here as the head coach.
Coach, true freshman, Muscoro, Sullivan, and McKee. Who else you taking?
We're taking a couple guys for depth purposes on, you know, really more for special teams. But the guys that you'll see the most are Muscoro, McKee, Sullivan, and Pinckney. Those are the 4 freshmen that will be out there and have a role on our team. The other guys will be more depth situated.
Piggybacking on what Joe said earlier, you have so many El Pasoans now that are part of you, 2 deep on the roster. You've built this team with a lot of local kids and kind of showing the community that there's enough talent here to go around that actually can contribute to D1 level.
Yeah. You know, and that wasn't a pipe dream. You know, we recognize that El Paso football is getting better. You know, 20 years ago, you would have never heard of an El Paso team beating a Midland Odessa team. Well, it happens now on a regular basis. There's better players, there's better coaching, there's more to draw from because the population's increased. High school football in El Paso has gotten better. Is there 25 Division I guys? No, but there may be 5 to 7 each year, and we'd be crazy not to recruit those 5 to 7 guys each year. Are we going to get all those guys? No, because kids make choices, and we don't look down upon the kids that do decide to go elsewhere, but we do want to give them an opportunity to play here. That's going to continue. As long as I'm the head coach here, we're going to recruit El Paso. We have a goal to have a player from every single high school in the city. We're close. There's only a couple schools that we haven't had a product from, and by the end of the deal, we want to have a player from every school in El Paso. This is El Paso's team, and that's where our recruiting starts. You know, it's funny, when I took the job, everybody complained that we don't recruit El Paso enough. Now that we recruit El Paso, everybody wants to complain about how we recruit El Paso too much. So I'm going to stick by my guns, and we're going to recruit El Paso.
Coach, normally wouldn't ask a week ahead, but have you reached out to Bryce at all? Is there any talk about them coming here beginning next week?
I don't think they're going to be coming here. I think they're going to settle in on another spot, but I did reach out to David Bailiff. David Bailiff is a close friend of mine. I think he would do the same for us. I just can't imagine the situation that they're going through, but we did offer up the use of our facilities in Sun Bowl to accommodate them. But I think they're going to go to Dallas-Fort Worth. They'll probably train at either SMU or TCU, and again, I just hope everything works out for them, because that's when football stops becoming football. You look at it more as a human being and a friend, and what they're going through, and we just want to help in any way we can.
Oh, Coach, the players on your team that are from the Houston area, the Gulf Coast, have they all gotten a chance to reach out to their families?
Yeah, and you worry about that, because we got several players from that area, and that's in the back of your mind. It's in the back of your mind how your family's doing, or if you have issues, or if somebody had to evacuate, and those type of things. So we're very sensitive to that, and we talk to those kids and make sure that everything's okay back home.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, anybody got any other questions? All right, thanks, guys. Have a great day.